Hey Shepard, welcome back to another episode of Valley Chat. This is a part 2 with our special guest Kip Fox talking about the Psalm Library, one of the parts of the Songwriter Initiative coming out of Concordia Irvine that we're utilizing, leaning on, using for our June preaching series, Songs for the Summer. And today we'll be talking about 3 of the Psalms that we're using for the final 3 weeks of the month of June. Just talking about what informed the songs that were written in translation of these Psalms, how maybe we can respond to them, what's it giving voice to, and how it can shape our own devotional lives, and also the devotional life we share with everyone that we gather in worship with. So Kip, welcome back. Thanks for this conversation. And let's just jump right into Psalm 130. The name of the song is Out of the Depths. This is one of my favorite Psalms, particularly to share with people who are going through challenging times. But why don't you share a little bit about Out of the Depths, the song itself, and how Psalm 130 informs it?
Yeah, so Psalm 130 is a song of ascents, which is a song that God's people would sing as they ascended to Jerusalem. And this song is, as a psalm, it's very simple. It's just 8 verses, and so it's easy to memorize and sing as you're ascending. But it really is a penitential song. The writer is quite clearly crying out to God for help. But really we see some themes here in that, and we can apply this to any part of our lives, but certainly crying out of despair from the wreckage that sin has caused, whether it be from the writer or from the way that sin affects our world. So it's a very relatable psalm, and again, a very simple psalm to read. It's also somewhat simple to write. A lot of times Psalms are really long, so to speak. And if we think about verses for a song in today's world, you think about 1, 2, maybe 3 verses in a song. And when you read the Psalms, obviously, you can go from 8 verses here to 125, 27, I think it is. I don't know, verses in a song. So all that to say, it's a really digestible one, and it's a really relatable song as well. So really, quite simply, the writer of the psalm is crying out to God for help. But thematically, what happened with this psalm, I wrote this with Dr. C.J. Armstrong at Concordia University Irvine, and he's got a PhD in Greek and Latin languages. So he helped out a lot here as well. While he may not have a PhD in Greek, he certainly knows his Greek well, and so helped me throughout this process. He's also an artist and a writer himself, so it was really fun to have him on the project. But this song, really, to me, it was very easy to start this song. Out of the depths I cry, as you hear the first line of the first verse. It's not always the case that these psalm settings that we're doing, these modern settings, we'll just start word for word with the psalm that we're attacking, for lack of a better term, that we're tackling, I mean to say. But I know certainly this is very personal for me. As I write these songs, I'm certainly reading the text. I'm working with the scholar and the theologian, and I'm trying to also help communicate what will help people sing as a body and as a group of people. But at the same time, I think for any songwriter, we're writing out of our personal experience. And so it was very easy for me to grab hold of this idea of despair and of crying out to God for help. So no problems there. But one of the things I found most interesting in this psalm, verse 3 and 4, Lord, if you kept a record of sins, O Lord, who could ever survive? Verse 3 there in NIV translations and other translations says, Lord, if you kept a record of sins, who of us could stand? And so you'll hear that in this song, that representation of that translation. But it's just such an interesting image and picture to me that sort of levels the playing field for all of us in a good way. And so the writer here there's really an act of humility here to say, okay, God, I need you. I am in despair. Let me just set the record straight. If a record of all our sins was laid out, none of us would be worthy to come to you. But as I say in the song, let me just read the chorus for you. If you, Lord, kept a list of all our sin, then who, Lord, who of us could stand? With you, Lord, the turning of our hearts begins with your forgiving hand. So the idea being that as we approach God humbly, and we understand that He is other, and that we are simply not worthy to be in His presence. But because of His love for us, because of Him turning our hearts back to Him, because of Him redeeming us and calling us to repentance, we can approach His presence with confidence. So really that was essentially the crux of this psalm, is to say, is to cry out to God in despair, but to ultimately find comfort, and to really find the comfort in the knowledge that, I think a lot of times when we go to God in prayer, it's more so in moments of desperation. And I don't know about you, but if I go to God in a moment of desperation, I often feel very guilty that I have not gone to God in moments, in a lot of other moments, right? When life is just fine or life's really good, but it's always, it's the classic prayer: God, if you do this, I'll go to church for the rest of my life, right? So it's this sort of bartering with God in the midst of our despair, because we're naturally inclined to think, okay, God, I know that you're in control and you can do anything, but I haven't been a good enough follower of you. I haven't been good enough in this relationship to expect that you would save me. And the beauty of the gospel and the real heart of the gospel is that no matter what kind of despair we're in, no matter how much we've sinned, no matter how much we've gone away from our relationship with God, He is the one drawing us back. And I was talking to someone recently about being a child of God, and how with my son Bo, if he were to need something in a moment of despair, there's no deserving. There's no like, oh, do you deserve?
There's no evaluation.
There's no evaluation. Like, do you deserve my help? And he is my child, and I will immediately rescue him if that's what he needs. Because of my love for him, there's nothing he can do ever in his life that will change that. So anyway, that not to get too far off track, but to me, that is really what the heart of this psalm is about.
It's really wonderful how you give voice to kind of three aspects of faith. One, the crying out to God in a time of need, which is something that He invites us to do. There's countless passages in the Old Testament, countless passages in the New Testament, really, where it's God saying, come to me with your worries, lay down your burdens on me, let me take that from you, cry out to me in the day of trouble, you know? And so we have that invitation. And so now we have this word we can use as, a helpful tool or stepping stone to becoming able to do that with our own voices, our own words. He says, this is a wonderful way to do that. Cry out to me using this same language that has been used by my people for thousands of years. And as they're making their way up to Jerusalem, we shouldn't gloss too quickly over the fact that that's where the presence of God was contained, in the temple. And so they were coming up and coming close. And it's probably kind of like how we get sometimes if we haven't been to church in a while, where we're like, oh, I haven't been a good Christian. And you start thinking about like, oh, how have I kind of had all these shortfalls in my faith? And, they're thinking about, when was the last pilgrimage I made, to Jerusalem, and how are these things kind of matching up? And so then we're answered in that guilt of, I don't deserve this. You invite me to engage with you, but I don't even deserve to do that because I'm neglecting to cry out for help. And yet He says, I forgive you, I love you. And the way that you phrase that the turning of our hearts begins with God's forgiveness, rather than that being something that we can trigger through our own effort or our own will, is something that I think is so powerful and easily missed in the way that we talk about it and even sing about God's work in our lives.
Absolutely.
Finally, the third kind of piece of faith that I think you illustrate so well here is anticipation, the waiting aspect of faith. What does it mean that we know Jesus is coming back, and that's a comfort and something that we want to see, something that we are yearning for, asking for, expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And the people of God at the time when the psalm was written, they were waiting for the Messiah to appear, for the fulfillment of those promises. We're waiting for the end of the age, the coming of Christ again to end all evils, to bring us into the heavenly kingdom, to make us new, to make us perfect. And so we can give voice to that same expectation, not only deliverance from our current struggles, deliverance from the struggles that all people are experiencing all across the world throughout time and space. And finally, just that repeated line in verse 6 of the psalm, which in the NLT says, I long for the Lord more than centuries long for the dawn, more than centuries long for the dawn. The ESV, more than watchmen for the morning, more than watchmen for the morning, I wait for you. And so it gives that sense of someone whose sole purpose is to keep watch until the sun rises over the city, over the walls, keeping everything under his watchful eye. And the way that you wrote that in the song is, my body and my spirit, my heart and my soul are watching, are waiting, are holding to hope, like watchmen are waiting for morning to come. So the watching are waiting and watchmen are waiting. That kind of rhetorical, just beauty and architecture there, just really wonderful. And I think anyone's going to find that to be a really awesome song to be just informing their experience of God in times of suffering or in times of wanting to draw near and really experience Him closer. So
good.
The next song we have is Hope Has an Answer. And this is kind of another kind of slower, more gentle song as well. But talk a little bit about Psalm 65, Hope Has an Answer, and what informed that particular song as you guys were going through the songwriting process.
Yeah, so this song was written with Dr. Mike Mittendorf at Concordia University, Irvine, and he is just a great. I've had him as a master's work professor and just a friend. He's a great guy and loves engaging in music. He plays bass actually as well, and so is a big fan of modern music. But all that said, when we approached Psalm 65, we were looking to write something that was Advent themed or Christmas themed, if you will, to something that we could engage with around Christmas time.
How do you make something sound Christmassy? Because this song sounds Christmassy.
Well, that's a great question. Some of it is in the instrumentation, but that's a whole nother podcast about how to make a song sound Christmassy.
We'll get to that one another time.
But yeah, there's a really cool instrument that the name is escaping me right now that we use in this song that's like a keyboard deal that sounds a little bit like bells. Makes the whole thing sound Christmassy. So
Got it.
It's a piece of cake. Just let the professionals do it. Not meaning me, meaning the professional musicians. So Psalm 65. So what we have here, what I wanted to key in on, is the chorus of this song. All of the questions that come in the night, all of the hours we pray for the light, every longing that wakes with the morn, hope has an answer, the Savior is born. And the idea here is that when Dr. Mittendorf translated this psalm for me, he talked about the word hope, which is used in verse 5, and I believe that's where we drew it from, although I'm looking at a different translation here. But the idea of this translation of hope is that hope as a word has been sort of cheapened a bit in our society, just by way of, we say, oh, I hope I get this for Christmas, or we hope for something that we don't know is going to happen. But this kind of hope in Psalm 65 is a hope that is grounded in sort of knowing the truth. Okay, so it's a hope in something that you know is going to happen. So really, the whole theme of this psalm and the theme of this song, and really the theme of Advent is, as we look towards, all of Advent, we're waiting and hoping for Christmas, for the Messiah to come. But we know it for Christmas time. We're practicing Advent. We know, okay, Jesus did come, so we're practicing that kind of hope. So we practice Advent with that certainty that hope was answered. But then, of course, we are looking for that ultimate hope when Jesus comes again. But so for Christmas, it just works really well to talk about this kind of hope that truly does have an answer. And as we, Christmas time, to me, more than any other time, culturally, is a time when we can, I believe, we can really speak to all of our culture, whether they go to church or not. It's a time of year that we all kind of
embrace,
right?
Yeah.
The lights are up in October and sold at, Costco turns everything over in September. And, we've got the lights and we've got the ornaments and the cookies and all that stuff. And so the point being, I wanted to just write something with that chorus that sort of encompassed all of us and all of the questions that we all wrestle with, no matter what faith we have, and to say that this hope that we all have that things will be made right in the end does have an answer, and that answer is in the manger. So
I think there is capturing the foundational sort of anchor kind of property of hope that we don't often mean when we use the word hope today, but all of us does. Each one of us have has an anchor of hope somewhere.
Yeah.
Some kind of hope is guiding our decision making, is guiding our lifestyle,
Right.
our character. And it may take a little while to dig with somebody into what that hope may be. Is it the hope that you'll be wealthy someday? Is it the hope that your children will be successful? Is it the hope that, a particular event's going to take place? And we kind of fall into that category of, we know Jesus is coming back. That's where our hope is. And we know that we can count on it because he's been here before. He really did come into the world through a manger, born as a baby boy. And so, finding that way to express that hope and also just kind of give voice to the fact that we are asking questions. Night does feel long. We are anticipating for things to get better, but we have a very specific answer as to what we mean by that arrival, by that enlightening, which is, through Jesus' presence. And we hang on to it through the presence of the Spirit today. So looking forward to that one as well. Psalm 65, Hope Has an Answer. We'll be finishing up the series with the final Sunday in June with Psalm 1. Probably one of the more familiar Psalms to people out there if they've ever tried to read the book of Psalms, because it's short and it's the first one. Sure. But the song you wrote kind of almost has maybe like a Western feel to it. I don't know if that's a accurate description.
Yeah, it's kind of a blues feel, so like a southern blues. Maybe we could get close to Western.
I'm not the musician
I think
myself.
the harmonica might be throwing you off into the Western category, but yeah.
So it's called That Man, and tell us a little bit about the song, and we'll talk a little bit about the psalm.
Yeah, so the song was, the sound of the song and the vibe of the song was actually inspired by a Stevie Wonder song that I'm a fan of, which I won't tell you what it is, but you can guess. It'd be a homework assignment. But wrote it with Chad Bird, who is a scholar in residence at an organization called 1517, and he's written a lot of books and he does great work. And then also wrote it with Ben Lang, who is a director of worship and a really great songwriter in St. Louis, Missouri. And this song was a ton of fun to write, and hopefully it's a bunch of fun to sing as well. But it was a song that was just very easy to head into because Chad Bird had given us just a very concrete idea about what Psalm 1 is about. And you would, as you would read Psalm 1, I think most of us would read it. Let's see. The joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked. This is interesting in the New Living Translation. So in other translations, you would read it as, blessed is the man who did not walk in the wisdom of this world. Okay, and so blessed is the man who doesn't walk in the world's wisdom. Blessed is the man who's never sinned. Blessed is the man who sets his heart on the Lord's word. So we would read that and go, okay, so I need to, I'll be blessed if I don't follow the advice of the wicked. I'll be blessed if I don't, if I don't hang out with sinners. I'll be blessed if I don't do this, don't do that, right? That's what Psalm 1's saying. And Chad came to us with the interpretation that this song is not pointing to just any person or any man, but specific man. And so you'll hear in the song, we say, blessed is that man who did not walk in the wisdom of this world. So hopefully this is just to not be confusing. As you read Psalm 1, it is a good practice to read it when you see blessed is the man, to read it as Jesus, the Messiah. And you can see that and hear that in the song as we sing, blessed is that man who did not walk in the wisdom of this world. Blessed is that man who never faltered, who knew his Father. And we get to the chorus, which is very hopefully clear about who the chorus is about, which is Jesus. So again, this psalm, the theme of Psalm 1 in this interpretation is not to say, if I do all of these things, I will be blessed, but it is to say that Jesus did all these things. He is blessed. And so when we stay connected to him, Psalm 1 talks about this person being like a tree that's planted along living waters. Okay? So instead of having to be that person, Jesus is that person for us, and we can essentially rest in the shade of his tree. We can pick the fruit of his tree, and it will sustain us because he ultimately sustains us. So it really sets the tone for the rest of the Psalms, obviously, but really sets the tone for the entire gospel message, which is, no, it's not us doing all of these things in perfection, although when we follow Jesus, we know that following in his footsteps and following his law certainly leads to life, but ultimately we know that he has done all these things for us. So we are just reaping the benefits of a tree that is evergreen, that produces fruit in and out of season, that never ends. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense.
I think it really gives, it's interesting that some of these songs you reflected strongly the language in the particular translation you were using, but then also found ways to kind of expound and explain the unfamiliar terms. When we talk about blessing, we talk about what it means to be blessed or blessed, and it doesn't always, but to answer that question concisely might prove challenging for a lot of people, whether they're in church every week or not. But then this song, that chorus, he's like a tree down by the living water, strong and tall, he's evergreen, blooming on every branch, blessed is that man. That is that description of what blessing really is. Stability, a fruit, strength, and just an established presence. And so then our interaction with him, benefit from him, results in our own blessing and experience of those things as well. And like you're saying, when we follow Jesus, he invites us along that same path of avoid the wicked. Don't be someone who's mocking or scoffing or rejecting other people, but instead, delight in the law of the Lord. Meditate on his word day and night. Be a part of someone who's familiar with the things that he does. And you get this warning at the end of the psalm of what it will be like if you're rejecting those things, and how unstable you are, and how really dangerous and how lost you will be when you just try to go your own way. But instead, when you gather under the branches of that planted, firm, strong tree by the stream of living water, you'll be enjoying the life of his blessing as well. So it's going to be great to walk through these songs and worship and really focus on these psalms in our preaching over the course of June. Thanks again for your time. And you can find more information about this stuff, get more insight with another podcast, Theology in Motion, and checking out, you can find the lyrics and explanations to the songs. If you're a musician yourself, you can get lead sheets and chords and all that kind of stuff, all at
if you go to cui.edu, which is Concordia University's website, cui.edu/CWL, which stands for Center for Worship Leadership.
It's a lot of acronyms.
It's a lot, but I know we can pause and rewind this if we need to gather that. You'll find all of this stuff. You'll find the Psalm Library. You'll find the Songwriter Initiative. You'll find a bunch of other resources that the Center for Worship Leadership provides. And really, you guys are pretty interactive. So if you have any questions or want to get involved in some way, or maybe participate in some way, you can contact them through those channels. Yeah, Instagram, right there, Facebook. So, it's all there. It's great. Thanks again for joining us on Valley Chat, and we hope that this is an encouragement for your own faith, your walk with God, and also your walk with others in that same faith. And I encourage you to take a look at these Psalms in your own Bible. Take some notes, mark down what's meaningful for you. And we hope to see you next time on Valley Chat, and we'll find a way to get Kip back on here at some point down the road. But God bless you and keep you, and we'll see you next time.